At my age, I never expected to watch a stranger load my car onto a tow truck while my neighbors stood on their porches pretending not to stare. I stood there in my driveway at 60 years old, holding a repossession notice with my daughter's signature on $73,000 worth of debt I didn't know existed. The repo man was polite about it. He even apologized. I remember thinking how strange that was, that he felt worse about taking my car than my own daughter felt about putting me in this position. I didn't cry. I just watched him drive away with the silver Honda Accord Marcus and I bought 3 years ago when we finally paid off the house. The same car I drove my daughter to college in. The same car she borrowed every time hers was in the shop. I stood there for a long time after the truck disappeared around the corner, and all I could think was how I never saw this coming. If this sounds familiar, stay with me. You can like and subscribe. We talk about things we don't say out loud here. Let me tell you how I ended up here, because it didn't start with a repo man. It started with love. It started with wanting to help my only child build a future. 3 years ago, my daughter Nicole called me on a Tuesday afternoon. She was crying. Not the dramatic kind of crying, just that tired, frustrated sound that tells you someone's been holding it together for too long. "Mom, I can't get approved for anything. I've applied for 3 apartments and they all turned me down. My credit score is 490. I don't know what to do." Nicole was 28 then. She'd graduated college 6 years earlier with a degree in marketing and $42,000 in student loans. She'd been living with her boyfriend Tyler in his apartment, but they'd just broken up and she needed her own place. "I'm trying to build something for myself," she told me. "I just need a chance to prove I'm responsible. But nobody will give me that chance with this credit score." I thought about how hard it must be for young people today. When I was 28, Marcus and I already owned our first home. Things were different then. So when she asked if I could add her as an authorized user on one of my credit cards, just to help boost her score, I didn't hesitate. "Mom, I won't even use it. I just need it on my credit report. That's how it works now. You add someone with good credit and it helps raise yours. I'll have my own cards within 6 months." It made sense. I looked it up online that same night, and everything she said was true. Authorized users benefit from the primary cardholder's good payment history. My credit score was 768. I'd never missed a payment in my life. I called her back the next morning and told her I'd do it. The relief in her voice made me feel like I'd actually solved something. "Thank you, Mom. Thank you so much. I promise I won't let you down." Marcus wasn't as sure about it. He didn't say no, but at dinner that night he asked me if we should maybe just co-sign for a secured credit card instead, something with a limit, something contained. I told him Nicole was our daughter. She wasn't going to take advantage, she just needed help getting started. He nodded and didn't push it, but I remember the way he looked at me, like he wanted to say something else but decided not to. I added her to my Visa card the following week, the one with the $15,000 limit that I used for groceries and gas. I got her the card in the mail and drove it over to her new apartment, a small 1-bedroom she'd gotten approved for 3 weeks later. "See, Mom? It's already working." She hugged me tight and I felt proud. I felt like I'd done something right. For the first 6 months, everything seemed fine. I'd check the statements every month like I always did. There were my charges, grocery store, gas station, the occasional dinner out with Marcus, and then there were a few small charges from Nicole. Coffee shops, a tank of gas here and there, maybe a dinner. Nothing that worried me. She'd text me when she used it. "Hey Mom, borrowed it for groceries. I'll Venmo you Friday." And she usually did. Maybe not always on Friday, maybe the next week, but the amounts were small. $20 here, $40 there. I told myself this was good. She was being responsible. She was learning. I thought I was teaching her something about trust and credit and how to manage money. I thought I was being a good mother. But looking back now, standing in my driveway without a car, I can see exactly when things started to change. It was small at first. The Venmo payments came a little slower. Then she'd pay me back half and promise the rest later. Then the charges got slightly bigger, 150 at Target, 200 at Macy's. When I asked about them, she always had an answer. I needed work clothes, Mom. I had to get new tires. My laptop died and I need it for work. Every explanation made sense. Every reason was legitimate. And she was my daughter. Why wouldn't I believe her? The thing about trust is that it doesn't break all at once. It erodes, one small compromise at a time, one unanswered text, one payment that never comes. One charge you decide not to mention because you don't want to seem like you're nagging. You tell yourself you're being understanding. You tell yourself everyone struggles sometimes. You tell yourself you're lucky you can help. What you don't tell yourself is that you're being used. I didn't know it then, but that Visa card wasn't the only card anymore. 6 months after I added Nicole, I got a call from American Express. They wanted to congratulate me on my approval for a new account. I told them I hadn't applied for anything. The woman on the phone paused. She asked me to verify my social security number and date of birth. Then she told me the application was submitted online 3 weeks ago and the card had already been mailed to an address I didn't recognize. I felt something cold move through my chest. I asked her to read me the address. It was Nicole's apartment. When I called my daughter, she answered on the 4th ring. Her voice was cheerful. "Hey, Mum, what's up?" I asked her about the American Express card. There was a pause, just long enough for me to know she was deciding what to say. "Oh, yeah. I was going to tell you about that. They sent me a pre-approval offer in the mail with your name on it. I figured since I'm already on your visa, it wouldn't hurt to have another one for my credit report. I'm not even using it, Mom. It's just sitting in my drawer." "But why didn't you ask me first?" "I didn't want to bother you. It's not a big deal. I wanted to believe her. I wanted it to not be a big deal. So I told myself it wasn't. I told myself she was just young and didn't understand how things worked. I told myself I'd explain it to her in person, calmly, and we'd cancel the card together. I told myself a lot of things that night. But I didn't cancel the card. And 2 months later, there was another one. Discover. Then Chase. Then Capital One. By the time the Repo man showed up in my driveway last week, Nicole had opened 7 credit cards in my name. And she'd maxed out every single one. How does a mother not notice $73,000 disappearing? How does someone who checks her bank account every week, who's never missed a payment, who prides herself on being responsible, let something like this happen? I've asked myself that question every day since I saw that repossession notice. And the only answer I have is this: I trusted her. I believed her, and every time something felt wrong, I talked myself out of the feeling because I didn't want to believe my own daughter would do this to me. But she did. And now I'm 60 years old, standing in my kitchen with Marcus looking at me like his heart is breaking, trying to figure out how we're going to survive this. Trying to figure out what I'm going to say when I finally have to face her. Trying to understand how the little girl I raised, the one I sacrificed everything for, could look at me and see nothing but an opportunity. I haven't called her yet. The repo company gave me her number as the contact for the debt. They've been trying to reach her for 3 months. She hasn't answered them either, but I know where she lives, and tomorrow I'm going to drive over there. Well, Marcus is going to drive me, since I don't have a car anymore, and I'm going to ask my daughter one simple question. Why? Marcus drove me to Nicole's apartment the next morning. Neither of us said much during the 20-minute drive. He kept his hand on mine at every red light, and I was grateful he didn't try to fill the silence with reassurances that everything would be okay, because we both knew it wouldn't be. Not the way it was before. Nicole's apartment complex looked different than I remembered. Or maybe I was different. The last time I'd been here was Christmas, 4 months ago. I brought her a cashmere sweater and a check for $500 because she'd mentioned things were tight at work. She'd hugged me and told me I was the best mom in the world. I thought about that hug now as Marcus parked in visitor parking. I wondered if she meant it, or if she was already thinking about which card she'd use next. Her car was in its spot, a white Lexus SUV she'd gotten last year. When she first showed it to me, I'd asked how she afforded it on her marketing salary. She'd laughed and said she got a great deal, that her credit had finally improved enough to qualify for good financing. Now I understood why her credit had improved. She'd been using mine. We walked up to the second floor. Marcus stayed a step behind me, letting me lead but making sure I knew he was there. I knocked on her door, once, twice. I could hear music playing inside, something upbeat and completely wrong for the moment. The door opened. Nicole stood there in yoga pants and an oversized sweatshirt, her hair in a messy bun. She looked comfortable. She looked like someone who didn't have a care in the world. Then she saw my face and something flickered across hers, not quite guilt, more like irritation at being caught. "Hey, Mum." Her voice was careful. "What are you doing here? I need to talk to you. Can we come in?" She hesitated, then stepped aside. The apartment was exactly how I'd expect a 28-year-old's place to look. Throw pillows on a grey couch, fairy lights strung across one wall, framed prints from Home Goods. Everything looked nice. Everything looked like she was doing just fine. On her kitchen counter, I saw shopping bags from Anthropology and Sephora. I sat down on her couch without waiting for an invitation. Marcus stood by the door. Nicole remained standing, arms crossed, and I realized she wasn't going to make this easy. "They repossessed my car yesterday." I watched her face carefully. "Do you know why?" She looked away. "Mum, I can explain." 7 credit cards, Nicole. 7. $73,000. I kept my voice steady, the way I'd practiced in my head all morning. "You didn't just use the card I gave you. You opened new accounts in my name. You forged my signature. Do you understand what you've done?" "I didn't forge anything." "You added me as an authorized user. That means I have permission to use your credit." To use O1 card. For small purchases, not to open 7 more without telling me. She sat down then, but not close to me. She sat in the chair across from the couch, creating distance between us. "Mum, you don't understand how hard it is out here. Rent is $1,800 a month. My student loans are $600. My car payment is $450. I barely make enough to survive." "So you decided to destroy my credit?" "To steal from me? I wasn't stealing from you." She said it like I was being unreasonable. I was going to pay it back. I just needed time to get on my feet. 3 years, Nicole. I've been helping you for 3 years. When does it end?" She didn't answer that. Instead, she looked at Marcus. "Dad, can you talk to her?" "Tell her I didn't mean for this to happen." Marcus's voice was quiet but firm. "Your mother's car is gone. Our savings are gone. We might lose the house. What exactly didn't you mean to happen?" Nicole's eyes filled with tears then, but I couldn't tell if they were real or strategic. "I've made mistakes, okay? I'm sorry, but you guys are fine. You have retirement. You have Social Security. I'm trying to build a life. At our expense?" I felt something hard forming in my chest. "You think because we're older, because we've worked for 40 years, that means we owe you everything we have? That's not what I'm saying." "Then what are you saying?" She stood up abruptly. "I'm saying I'm your daughter. I thought you'd want to help me. I thought that's what parents do." "Help? Yes. Be destroyed by you? No." The words came out harder than I intended, but they needed to be said. Nicole's face changed then. The tears disappeared, and what replaced them was cold. "Fine. If that's how you feel, maybe you should just leave. We're not done talking about this." I stood up too. "You owe me $73,000. How do you plan to pay it back?" "I don't know, Mom. I don't have it." She said it like that settled everything. "Sue me if you want. Take me to court, do whatever you need to do, but I don't have the money." Marcus put his hand on my shoulder. "We should go. I didn't want to go. I wanted her to break down and apologize. I wanted her to show me she understood what she'd done. I wanted my daughter back." But the woman standing in front of me wasn't someone I recognized anymore. As we walked toward the door, I saw it. Sitting on her dining table, a new laptop, still in the box, Apple. The expensive kind. Next to it, a shopping bag from Nordstrom. When did you buy those? My voice was barely a whisper. Nicole followed my gaze. Last week. Why? Last week. The same week they repossessed my car. The same week I'd been calling her, texting her, begging her to call me back. She'd been shopping. I didn't say anything else. I walked out of that apartment and I didn't look back. In the car, Marcus started the engine but didn't put it in gear. He just sat there, staring straight ahead. She's not going to pay you back. I know. She doesn't think she did anything wrong. I know. What are we going to do? I didn't have an answer yet. But sitting there in visitor parking, looking up at my daughter's apartment, where she was probably already back to scrolling through her phone without a second thought about us, I felt something shift inside me. For 3 years, I'd been making excuses for her. For 3 years, I'd been telling myself she was just struggling, just learning, just young. For 3 years, I'd been choosing to believe her lies because believing them was easier than accepting the truth. The truth was, my daughter had looked at my love and seen a credit limit. She'd looked at my trust and seen an opportunity. She'd looked at her father and me at 60 and 62 years old and decided our financial security mattered less than her shopping trips. That laptop probably cost $2,000. The bags on her counter, another few hundred. While we were trying to figure out how to pay our mortgage without our savings, she was buying things she didn't need with money she didn't have. Marcus finally spoke. We need to call the police, file a report. This is identity theft. She's our daughter. She's a thief. He wasn't angry, just stating a fact. And if we don't report it, we're liable for all of it. Every penny. He was right. I knew he was right. But the thought of calling the police on my own child made me feel sick. We drove home in silence. When we got there, the empty space in the driveway where my car used to be felt like a wound. Marcus helped me inside and we sat at the kitchen table, the same table where we'd had breakfast that morning, the same table where Nicole used to do her homework as a little girl. I thought about all the times I'd helped her. Not just the credit cards. Before that, the rent I'd paid when she was between jobs, the groceries I'd bought and delivered to her apartment, the car insurance I'd covered because she said she couldn't afford it, the $2,000 I'd given her for emergency dental work that I now suspected never happened. I pulled out my phone and opened my banking app. I went through 2 years of Venmo transactions, payments to Nicole. $300 here, $200 there, $500 for rent, $400 for utilities, $600 for car repairs. I added them up twice because I couldn't believe the number. $17,300 in 2 years, separate from the credit cards. Marcus looked over my shoulder. He didn't say anything. He didn't need to. That night, I couldn't sleep. I lay in bed staring at the ceiling, doing math in my head. $73,000 in credit card debt, $17,000 in cash I'd given her. Our savings account, which we'd emptied last month, trying to make minimum payments on cards I didn't know existed until the bills came. That was another $12,000 gone. $102,000. That's what my daughter had cost us. That's what my love was worth to her. And tomorrow, I had to decide what to do about it. I made the decision at 3 a.m. Marcus was asleep beside me, his breathing steady and deep the way it always was. I envied him that, the ability to rest even when the world was falling apart. I slipped out of bed and went to the kitchen, made myself tea I didn't want, and opened my laptop. I started with the credit card statements. All 7 of them. I'd been avoiding looking at them in detail, but now I needed to see everything. I needed to know exactly what my love had purchased. The Visa card, the one I'd originally added her to, showed charges going back 3 years. At first, like I remembered, they were small. Grocery stores, gas stations, reasonable things. But around month 7, something changed. There was a charge for $1,200 at a furniture store. then $900 at Best Buy. Then a payment to her apartment complex for $3,600, 3 months of rent, all at once. I remembered that. She'd called me crying, said her landlord was threatening to evict her. "Mom, I'm so sorry, I fell behind because work cut my hours. I promise I'll pay you back as soon as I get my tax refund." I'd told her not to worry about it. Family helps family, that's what I'd said. There was no tax refund, there never was. I moved to the American Express card, the one she'd opened without asking. That one was worse. Designer handbags, a weekend trip to Miami with charges at hotels and restaurants I couldn't even pronounce, $1,200 at a spa, $800 at a nail salon over 3 months. She'd been getting her nails done twice a month on my credit while telling me she couldn't afford to pay me back. The Discover card showed furniture deliveries. Not from IKEA, from Pottery Barn and West Elm. I thought about her apartment, how nice everything looked, how I'd complimented her on her decorating skills. She'd smiled and said she'd gotten good at finding deals. The deals were my credit score. Chase had mostly restaurant charges, hundreds of dollars at upscale places. I recognized some of the names from when Marcus and I had looked at restaurants for our anniversary last year and decided they were too expensive. Nicole had been eating at them regularly, often multiple times a week. The charge descriptions showed parties of 4, parties of 6. She'd been treating her friends to expensive dinners while I'd been eating soup for lunch to save money. Capital One was clothes. Nordstrom, Bloomingdale's, Saks Fifth Avenue. I added up 3 months of charges. $6,000 on clothes. In 3 months. By the time I got through all 7 cards, the sun was starting to come up. My tea had gone cold, and I had a spreadsheet that showed me exactly who my daughter was. She wasn't struggling. She was living a lifestyle she couldn't afford and using me to pay for it. Every crying phone call about how hard things were, every story about unexpected expenses, every time she'd made me feel guilty for questioning her, it had been a lie, a performance. And I'd been the audience, applauding and handing over my credit cards. I heard Marcus get up. He came into the kitchen, saw my face, saw the laptop, and poured himself coffee without saying anything. Finally, he sat down across from me. "You've been up all night." I nodded. I went through everything, every charge, every card. And she's been lying about all of it. She's not struggling, Marcus. She's spending money like she's rich. Designer bags, expensive restaurants. She took a trip to Miami and charged $4,000 to my American Express. I held up the spreadsheet. While we were eating spaghetti for the 3rd time that week because we were trying to save money, she was having brunch at places that charged $30 for eggs. Marcus read through the spreadsheet. His jaw tightened, but he didn't interrupt. When he finished, he set it down carefully, like it might explode. "We're calling a lawyer today." "I know, and we're filing a police report." I nodded, but the thought still made me want to throw up. "She's our daughter. Janet." He reached across the table and took my hand. "Our daughter stole over $100,000 from us. She's not sorry, she's not going to pay it back, and if we don't report this, we lose everything. The house, our retirement, everything we've worked for our entire lives." She did this, not us. He was right. I knew he was right. But knowing it and accepting it were 2 different things. My phone buzzed, a text message. I looked down and my heart stopped. It was from Nicole. "Mom, I've been thinking about what you said yesterday. You're right. I need to be more responsible. I'm going to start paying you back. I can send you $200 this month. I know it's not much, but it's a start. Love you. W. $200. Out of $73,000. It would take her 365 months to pay me back. 30 years. She'd be 58 years old. I showed Marcus the text. He read it and shook his head. She thinks $200 fixes this? I think she's panicking. I think she knows we're serious, and she's trying to make it go away with the smallest possible gesture. Another text came through. This one had a screenshot attached. I opened it. It was a Venmo payment. Nicole had sent me $200 with a note. First payment. Thanks for being patient with me, Mum. $200. While she had a $2,000 laptop sitting on her dining table. While she had $6,000 worth of new clothes in her closet. While her rent was $1,800 a month and her car payment was $450, which meant she somehow had money for those things, but only $200 for the debt that was destroying our lives. Something broke in me then. Not broke like shattered. Broke like a dam finally giving way. I texted her back. I saw your laptop, the new one. How much did that cost? 3 dots appeared, disappeared, appeared again. Finally, that was a work expense. My company reimbursed me. I called her. She didn't answer. I called again. Again. On the 4th try, she picked up. Mom, I'm at work. I can't really talk. Did your company reimburse you for the laptop? Silence. Nicole. Did they? Not yet, but they will. When did you buy it? Why does it matter? When? Last Tuesday. Her voice was defensive now, irritated. I needed it for work. My old one died. Last Tuesday. I repeated it slowly, letting her hear what I was hearing. The day after they repossessed my car, the day I called you 6 times and you didn't answer, the day your father and I sat in our kitchen trying to figure out how we're going to pay our mortgage. That Tuesday. Mum, you're making this a bigger deal than it is. $2,000, Nicole. You spent $2,000 on a laptop while we lost our car, while we emptied our savings trying to cover your debt. And you think $200 makes that okay? I said I'd pay you back. What more do you want from me? The question hung in the air between us. What more did I want? I wanted my daughter back. I wanted the little girl who used to fall asleep in my lap reading stories. I wanted the teenager who called me after her first heartbreak and cried on the phone for an hour. I wanted the young woman I thought I'd raised, who understood that love meant something, that family meant something, that other people's sacrifices were not her personal bank account. But that person was gone. Maybe she'd never existed. Maybe I'd just been too blind to see who Nicole really was. I want you to understand what you've done. My voice was steady now, calm. I want you to look at your father and me and see 2 people who worked their entire lives to build something and realize you took it from us. I want you to feel something other than inconvenienced. Wow! Her laugh was sharp, bitter. So this is what I get for making one mistake. You're going to guilt-trip me forever? One mistake? Nicole, this wasn't one mistake. This was 3 years of lying. This was 7 credit cards. This was you looking at us struggling and going shopping. You know what, Mom? I'm done with this conversation. I said I'm sorry. I sent you money. If that's not good enough, then I don't know what you want me to do. She hung up. Just like that. The same way she'd hung up 3 years ago when she first asked to use my credit card. The same way she'd hung up dozens of times when I'd asked uncomfortable questions. The same dismissive click that told me I didn't matter enough to fight with. I sat there holding my phone, and Marcus looked at me with so much sadness in his eyes that I almost started crying. But I didn't, because crying meant I still believed this could be fixed. Crying meant I still thought my daughter would wake up and realize what she'd done. I wasn't going to cry anymore. I was going to call a lawyer. And I was going to save what was left of our lives, even if it meant losing her. The lawyer's office was smaller than I expected. Not intimidating, just practical. Her name was Patricia Holloway, and she was maybe 45, with grey streaked hair pulled back in a bun and reading glasses on a chain around her neck. She offered us coffee. We both declined. I don't think either of us could have kept anything down. Marcus had found her through a colleague at work. She specialized in elder financial abuse and identity theft. When she said those words, elder abuse, I flinched. I was 60. I didn't feel elderly. But legally, technically, that's what this was. My own daughter had committed elder financial abuse against me. Patricia spread our documents across her desk. The credit card statements I'd printed, the bank records, the text messages, the timeline I'd created at 3 in the morning. She read through everything methodically, making notes, saying nothing. Finally, she looked up. "This is textbook identity theft. You have everything we need to file a police report and dispute the charges with the credit card companies. The question is whether you're prepared to follow through." "What does that mean?" My voice sounded small. "It means your daughter will likely face criminal charges. Identity theft, fraud, possibly forgery, depending on how she obtained some of these cards. She could go to jail. At minimum, she'll have a criminal record." She took off her glasses. "I need you to understand that once we start this process, there's no taking it back. The credit card companies will pursue her. The police will investigate. This will not be quiet." Marcus squeezed my hand. "We understand." Patricia looked at me. "Mrs. Patterson, do you understand? Because in my experience, parents often think they can file the report, get their credit cleared, and somehow protect their child from consequences. That's not how this works. I understand." The words felt like swallowing glass. She stole from us. She needs to face consequences. Patricia nodded and pulled out a form. "Then let's begin." We spent 2 hours in that office, going through every charge, every card, every lie. Patricia recorded everything, asked questions I hadn't thought of, built a case that made my daughter sound like a stranger, a criminal. By the time we left, I felt hollowed out. Our next stop was the police station. That was harder. The officer who took our report was young, maybe 30, and he kept looking at me with pity in his eyes, like he couldn't imagine his own mother sitting where I was sitting. When he asked me to describe the suspect, I had to say my daughter's name, her date of birth, her address. I had to give them a recent photo. I used one from Christmas. She was smiling, holding the cashmere sweater I bought her. The officer told us someone would be in touch, that it might take a few weeks to process. Marcus thanked him. I couldn't speak. We drove home in silence again. I was starting to hate that silence, the way it filled the car with everything we weren't saying. That evening, I called the credit card companies, all 7 of them. Each call was the same script. "I'm calling to report identity theft. No, it wasn't a stranger. It was my daughter. Yes, I'm sure. Yes, I filed a police report." Each representative sounded uncomfortable, like they didn't know what to say to a mother reporting her own child. They put freezes on the accounts. They sent me fraud affidavits to fill out. They told me to expect letters, investigations, phone calls. By the time I finished the last call, it was after 9 at night. My throat hurt from talking. My hands hurt from gripping the phone so tight. Marcus made us scrambled eggs for dinner because neither of us had eaten all day. We sat at the kitchen table and moved food around our plates. My phone rang. "Nicole!" I stared at her name on the screen. Marcus looked at me. "Don't answer it. I need to know what she wants. Janet!" His voice was firm. "You don't owe her anything, not even a conversation." But I answered anyway. I don't know why. Maybe I was hoping she'd say the right thing. Maybe I was hoping for a miracle. "Mom, what the hell?" Her voice was shaking, not with sadness, but with anger. "The police just called me. They said you filed a report against me. They said I committed identity theft. How could you do this to me? How could I do this to you? I'm your daughter, and you stole from me." $73,000, Nicole. What did you think was going to happen? "I thought we'd work it out. I sent you money. I told you I'd pay you back." $200. You sent $200 and bought a $2,000 laptop the same week. That was for work. Stop lying. I didn't yell. I didn't raise my voice. I just said it clearly, firmly, like stating a fact. Just stop lying. I know everything now. I've seen every charge. Every trip, every handbag, every expensive dinner. You weren't struggling. You were living a lifestyle you couldn't afford, and you used me to pay for it. So that's it? You're going to destroy my life over this? You destroyed mine. The words came out before I could stop them. But I didn't take them back. You took everything your father and I saved. You took our security. You took our car, and you don't even care. You're not sorry you did it. You're just sorry you got caught. I can't believe you called the police on your own daughter. Her voice broke. Do you know what this is going to do to me? I could lose my job. I could go to jail. My entire future is ruined. You ruined it yourself. No. She was crying now, but it sounded more like rage than remorse. You ruined it. You and Dad. You always have to be the victims, don't you? You always have to make everything about you. I hung up. My hands were shaking. Marcus took the phone from me and turned it off completely. She's going to keep calling, then she can call into the void. That night, I did something I should have done 3 years ago. I went through every financial account we had and changed every password. I removed Nicole from my credit cards, my bank accounts, anywhere her name appeared. I set up fraud alerts on my credit reports. I locked down everything. Marcus watched me work. When I finally closed the laptop, he said, "We should call your brother, Leo." I hadn't even thought to tell him. Nicole was his niece. He'd helped pay for her college graduation party. What am I supposed to say? The truth. I called Leo the next morning. He listened without interrupting while I explained everything. When I finished, there was a long pause. "Janet, I'm so sorry. I should have seen it coming. I should have known." "No." His voice was firm. "She's an adult. She made choices. This is not your fault." But I enabled it. I kept giving her money. I kept believing her. Because you're her mother. Because you loved her. That's not enabling. That's just love. She took advantage of that. That's on her, not you. I started crying then. Not the quiet tears I'd been holding back for days, but real sobs that came from somewhere deep. Leo stayed on the phone, didn't tell me to stop, didn't try to fix it. He just stayed. When I finally calmed down, he said, "What do you need? I don't know. Do you need money? For the lawyer? For bills? Anything? No, we're okay. We'll be okay." But we weren't okay, not really. Our credit was destroyed, we had debt we were disputing, but still responsible for until it was resolved. Our savings was gone. And we didn't have a car. The next day, Marcus's sister Julie called. Leo had told her. She drove over with groceries and a casserole and sat in our living room while I told her everything again. She didn't offer advice. She didn't say, "I told you so." Even though she'd never particularly liked Nicole, she just listened. Before she left, she hugged me tight. "You're stronger than you think. You're going to get through this." I wanted to believe her, but sitting in my house that had never felt so empty, looking at the driveway where my car used to be, knowing my daughter hated me for holding her accountable, I didn't feel strong. I felt like I'd lost everything that mattered. Marcus found me in the bedroom later, staring at photos on my dresser, pictures of Nicole as a baby, as a child, as a teenager. Before she became someone I didn't recognize, we could take them down. His voice was gentle. "If it's too hard to look at them." "No." I touched the frame of her kindergarten photo. That little girl was real. I loved her. That's not something to be ashamed of. The person she became, that's not my fault. He sat beside me on the bed. "The lawyer called. The credit card companies are starting their investigations. She thinks we'll be able to dispute most of it. Most of it. Some of the charges are from the card you originally authorized. Those might be harder to prove as fraud since she had permission to use that account." I nodded. "How much?" $15,000. $15,000. I'd be responsible for because I'd trusted my daughter. Because I'd wanted to help her. Because I'd been a good mother. The irony wasn't lost on me. Over the next 2 weeks, I started rebuilding. Small things. I opened a new bank account at a different bank. I got a secured credit card in my name only to start repairing my credit. I borrowed my brother's car to get to my part-time job at the library. I stopped checking my phone every 5 minutes hoping Nicole would call and apologize. She didn't call. She didn't text. She disappeared completely, like we'd never existed. And slowly, quietly, without drama or confrontation, I started to feel something I hadn't felt in 3 years. Free. It's been 4 months since the repo man showed up in my driveway. 4 months since I learned that love and credit limits look the same to some people. 4 months since I've heard my daughter's voice. The legal process is still moving forward. Slowly, the way these things do. Patricia calls every few weeks with updates. 3 of the credit card companies have cleared the charges as fraud. 2 are still investigating. 1 denied my claim because I'd authorized Nicole on the original account, which apparently makes me responsible for everything she did after. $7,000. I'll be paying off for the next 3 years. It feels unfair, but I'm learning that fair isn't something you can depend on. My credit score is climbing back up. It dropped to 482 at the lowest point. Now it's 563. Patricia says it'll take another year, maybe 2, before I'm back where I was. But I'll get there. Marcus and I both will. We bought a car last month, not new, nothing fancy, a 12-year-old Toyota Camry with 130,000 miles on it. We paid cash, $3,000 we'd saved from his paychecks and my library wages. It's not the Honda I lost, but when I turn the key and the engine starts, it's mine, really mine. No one else's name on the title, no one else has the keys. That matters more than I expected it to. The house is safe. We refinanced, took out a small home equity loan to cover the $15,000 in debt we couldn't dispute. Our mortgage payment went up by $200 a month, but we're managing. We eat at home more. We cancelled subscriptions we didn't need. Marcus brings lunch to work instead of buying it. These aren't hardships, they're just adjustments, and every payment we make on time feels like reclaiming something. Leo still calls twice a week. Julie stops by every Sunday with groceries she swears are extras from her own shopping that she can't possibly use. I know she's buying them specifically for us, but I let her pretend. Pride is expensive, and I can't afford it right now. Her kindness is keeping us fed, and I'm grateful. I haven't seen Nicole. She hasn't tried to contact us since that angry phone call 4 months ago. Patricia told me she hired a lawyer. Apparently, she's arguing that this is a civil matter, not a criminal one, that it was a family misunderstanding. The police aren't buying it. Neither am I. Sometimes I wonder what she's doing. If she still has that apartment with the nice furniture, if she kept the Lexus, if she's working, paying her bills, or if she found someone else to use. I wonder if she thinks about us at all. If she ever looks at that cashmere sweater I bought her for Christmas and feels anything. But mostly, I don't wonder. Mostly, I'm too busy rebuilding the life she tried to take from me. I started volunteering at a financial literacy program at the community center. It's for young adults, teaching them about credit, budgeting, how to avoid debt. I told the coordinator about my experience. Not all the details, just that I'd learned some hard lessons about credit cards and family. She said that made me exactly the kind of teacher they needed. Someone who'd lived through it. Last week, I had a girl in my class, maybe 23, who told me her sister wanted her to co-sign on a car loan. She asked me if that was a good idea. I looked at her, this young woman with her whole future ahead of her, and I told her the truth. Never co-sign for anyone, not your sister, not your best friend, not anyone. If they can't qualify on their own, there's a reason. Don't let someone else's poor decisions become your debt. She seemed relieved, like she'd needed permission to say no. I gave her that permission. I wish someone had given it to me. Marcus says I seem different, quieter, but not in a sad way. More settled. He's right. Something shifted in me these past 4 months. I spent 3 years trying to save Nicole from her own mistakes, trying to be the mother who fixed everything, who never said no. I thought that's what love looked like. Sacrifice, giving until it hurt. Now I know that wasn't love, that was fear. Fear that if I stopped giving, she'd stop needing me. Fear that setting boundaries meant I was a bad mother. Fear that saying no meant I didn't care. But real love isn't about giving everything. Real love is about teaching someone to stand on their own. And if they refuse to learn, if they see your kindness as weakness and your generosity as an ATM, then the loving thing is to step back, to stop enabling. to let them face the consequences they've been avoiding. I didn't fail Nicole. She failed herself, and it took losing everything to finally understand that. My friend from work, Denise, asked me last week if I'd ever forgive her. Nicole, I mean. I thought about it for a long time before I answered. You need to add some text for me to talk. I don't know. Maybe, but forgiveness doesn't mean forgetting. It doesn't mean letting her back in. It doesn't mean pretending this didn't happen. If she ever came to me, really apologized, showed me she understood what she'd done and was actively trying to make it right, then maybe we could talk. But that hasn't happened, and I'm not holding my breath waiting for it. Denise said that seemed sad. I told her what's sad is wasting years hoping someone will change when they've shown you exactly who they are. What's sad is loving someone more than you love yourself. What's sad is teaching your child that stealing from their parents is okay as long as they apologize after. I'm 60 years old. I don't have time for sad anymore. I have time for truth. And the truth is, I'm better off without her in my life right now. Maybe forever. And that's okay. If stories like this resonate with you, stay connected. Like and subscribe. We talk about real things here. The things we don't say out loud at family dinners, the things we hide because we're ashamed. But there's no shame in being taken advantage of by someone you love. The shame belongs to them, not us. Last Sunday, Marcus and I drove to the beach. The one an hour north, not the one we used to own. We parked the Camry in the public lot and walked down to the water. It was cold, windy, not quite the right season for it. But we went anyway. We stood there watching the waves, and Marcus put his arm around me. You okay? I am, and I meant it. I'm really okay. I thought about the woman I was 4 months ago. Standing in her driveway, watching her car disappear, wondering how her life had fallen apart so completely. That woman thought she'd lost everything. But she was wrong. She'd lost money, she'd lost credit, she'd lost a daughter who'd never really been there in the first place. What she'd gained was something more valuable. Self-respect. Boundaries. The knowledge that she could survive the worst thing she'd imagined and still be standing, still be whole, still be enough. We walked back to the car as the sun was setting. Marcus drove us home to the house we'd saved, the life we were rebuilding. As we pulled into the driveway, I didn't look at the empty spot where my old car used to be. I looked at the Toyota sitting there. Paid for. Ours. A small thing, maybe. But small things matter when you're starting over. Inside, I made us dinner. Spaghetti, because we'd learned to love it these past few months. While the pasta boiled, I thought about Nicole. I wondered if she was happy, if the laptop still worked, if the clothes still fit, if any of it had been worth the price she'd paid. I hoped, somewhere deep down, that she'd figure it out eventually. That she'd wake up one day and realize what she'd lost. Not the money, not the credit cards, but us, her parents. The people who would have given her anything if she'd just asked honestly, if she'd just loved us back. But that was her journey now, not mine. Mine was here, in this kitchen with my husband, in this house we'd fought to keep, in this life we were building from scratch at 60 years old. It wasn't the life I'd planned. It wasn't the retirement I'd imagined. It wasn't the relationship with my daughter I'd dreamed of, but it was mine. It was honest. It was real. And after 3 years of living in someone else's lie, that felt like everything. Marcus brought me a glass of water, sat down at the table, smiled at me in that way that said he understood all the things I wasn't saying. We ate dinner together, talking about small things. His day at work, my class at the community center, the errands we needed to run tomorrow, normal things, simple things, true things. And for the first time in years, that was enough.